Hi, my name is Lucy Stonehill. I'm the co-founder and CEO of BridgeU. I'm going to focus on a few things throughout the presentation today. I'm going to give a little bit of context and sense of the market in which we operate. I'm going to talk about how this has shaped our solution. And then I'm going to speak a little bit about how we're starting to build a framework for the guidance process of the future and end with sort of our big vision. So, as we will hear and have heard quite a lot throughout the course of this conference and this event, today looks very different from the past, and the future will look very different from today. So I'll pull out some numbers to give you some context. There's currently 2.5 billion members of the middle class globally, and this is an 80% increase on 20 years ago. So really a kind of massive explosion in emerging members of the middle class globally. Fast forward to 2020, and half of all 18 to 22-year-olds will come from India, China, the United States, and Indonesia. Meanwhile, we will have a shortage of 40 million employees with the right qualifications to meet labor market demand. For those of us who operate in the progression from secondary to post-secondary, there will also be 100 million more students enrolled in higher education globally by 2025, resulting in a total enrollment of 260 million. And then as we head towards 2030, we're looking at 1.2 billion students in K-12 institutions globally, and critically, a job market whereby 85% of the jobs in 2030 don't currently exist. And so, I think what's really fascinating about this is for young people, especially those who are in education or who will soon be, the future is very rapidly evolving and shifting. And so from our perspective and from my perspective at BridgeU, we have to think very critically about how we enable students to progress through stages of education to ensure awareness of these emerging and future trends. This is actually a kind of a stat that Michael Mo from GSV at the December conference in Beijing mentioned, that in fact, we're going to have 1.2 billion people, K-12 students by 2030, and if we don't actually change how we support these students as they progress through education and into early employment, we will end up with much of the same, namely a 50% dropout rate, or 50% of those students who are otherwise left behind and unable to take advantage of and align their skills with emerging opportunities. My view is that an important problem to solve is a broken process where the consequences are untenable or unacceptable. And so this hopefully gives you the framework for the context in which BridgeU operates. We empower learning institutions to prepare the students of today for the world of tomorrow. As part and parcel of this, we're really focused on building a framework for what the future of guidance needs to look like in order to prepare students for this world of tomorrow, bearing in mind all of the moving parts, which we discussed on that timeline and that vision looking at from now to 2030. There's sort of four key tenets that we've sort of designed as part of our framework for the guidance process of the future, which in turn impacts how we build out our product and provide our service. And that is that it will be inherently global. So it will need to enable students to explore and interchange global post-secondary and career opportunities. The guidance process of the future will need to be ahead of the curve, so it will need to be inherently forward-thinking and forward-looking. It will also need to be data-driven, so that students have access to the information as it is changing and evolving in real time, so that as and when they're making decisions about the next step in their education or early career development, that information and that decision is truly informed. And then it'll also need to be comprised of the right team. That is, the right people, the right processes, and the right platform. BridgeU, we were global from day one, so we wanted to first of all service a group of schools that whereby our service would not be localized to a single market. And what that's meant is that since starting the company a little over 4 years ago, we've grown to now working directly with secondary schools in over 60 countries. I'll talk you a little bit through the product as well to kind of give a little bit more context into how we deliver this vision and this service. BridgeU is integrated within the ecosystem of the school. We think it's really important if you are a modern day tech player within education to talk to other systems so that the burden of data and integration and duplication is not on the user. We do something quite unusual, which is that we are not just focused on enabling schools, learning institutions to manage this decision-making process with their students. We also want to reinvent the framework behind decision-making. So at BridgeU, we're very fond of this concept that students don't know what they don't know, and they certainly can't become what they can't see. And so we assess students within the context of the BridgeU platform and leverage historical and existing data sources to match them proactively with universities and courses across 25,000 different institutions. We also enable a series of builder tools, collaboration tools to enable students, teachers, senior leaders, and advisors to collaborate on the building of the application process. And then we're also focused on time saving for the advisor, for the individual who's managing the entirety of this process by enabling tracking, workflow optimization tools so that they can spend more time providing high value, high touch services directly to students. And then finally, there's sort of one piece which we've spent a lot of time working on recently. I think, as I spoke about recently, the guidance process of the future will need to leverage data in a much more tangible, powerful way. So with schools that are part of the BridgeU network, we enable them access to both reporting and insights. Reporting is more tactical and enables them to literally manage the moving parts of the preparation, application, and delivery process. And then we enable them access to insights. As we have schools now in over 60 countries, we have a very powerful ability to kind of crowdsource student outcomes and student data and to feed that into a wider body of insights which all of our schools can individually benefit from. As I mentioned, I started the business 4 years ago. If we continue on growing at the pace at which we have, we expect to have 750,000 students on the BridgeU platform by 2020. This will mean that within the context of sort of our first addressable market, we will be in about 1 in 4 English medium international schools globally. We're very focused on providing a hugely scalable, forward-thinking university and careers guidance service for our individual schools. But in the process of scaling that up to actually designing a very global service, we are also very passionate about building a much wider community really designed on this premise that learners and young professionals will move about the world, and we want to be a part of helping design that overall learning and social network for the global nomad. Thank you.